The next item is K3A, Property Tax Deputy Director's Report, Operational Updates, Report on the Status of Pending and Upcoming Reports, Activities, and Departmental Issues. This item will be presented by Mr. Young.
Great.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. Today, I will give you a brief update on the operational going-ons in the Property Tax Department. After my brief report, I will go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Patricia Lumsden, who is the Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. And sitting in for Mr. McCool today will be a new face for you guys. It will be Ms. Michelle Cruz, Principal of the State Assessed Properties Division. They will both provide you with a little bit more detail on what's going on in their individual divisions. And then following that, we will have a presentation from Ms. Lauren Keach, who will give you an update on our process improvements for the welfare exemption unit. So with that, I'll go ahead and start. The Property Tax Department is as a whole doing really well, consistent with our strategic plan. Our staff has embarked on a process improvement project as part of our revitalization efforts. So we are actually doing really well on that. What we have done is we've gone through and we have actually started to document and update our processes in which we do much of our functions. So we are about halfway through right now in our documentation process. This is a long-term project. It is something that we do organically, but we're adding a little bit of structure to it and doing it a little bit more formally now. So it is a long-term and a continuous effort. So this will probably take quite a while for us to get all the way through all our processes. For the County Assessed Properties Division side, staff is still very busy, as I reported earlier, on implementing Prop 19 and the statute put in place by SB 539. So they are still answering a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries from our website, and we are also in the process of drafting 2 LTAs on that. On the state assessed property side, staff has, as of December of last year, we've concluded our work on the assessment appeals. We now shift our work to getting ready for the 2022 season of valuation work. So right now, staff is right in the middle of doing our capitalization rate studies. That is going well, but we are in the preliminary stages of putting that together and going through all our templates and everything we need in order to get ready for our valuation season. So with that, before I turn the presentation over to the next 3 presenters, I am available for any questions you may have. Seeing none.
You've done an excellent job of educating us, so much so that we can read the reports and understand them. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. The next sub item is letters to assessors presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable board members. My name is Patty Lumsden. I'm Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. Today, I will provide you with a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to the agenda again this month is a memo on letters to assessors, which provides a list of all LTAs that have been issued since our last board meeting. In addition, it provides a link to the BOE's website, where a list of all LTAs issued to date can be found. For calendar year 2021, BOE staff issued a total of 68 LTAs. Since our last board meeting, we have issued 16 LTAs, and 4 of which were recently issued in calendar year 2022. Some of those LTAs of note are 3 LTAs that were issued for the 2022 revisions of the following Assessor's Handbook sections: 531, which was the residential building costs, 534, which was the rural building costs, and 581, which is the Equipment and Fixtures Index, Percent Good, and Valuation Factors. These revisions are to be used as of the January 1, 2022 lien date for county assessors and their staff. There were also 2 LTAs issued on assessment practices survey reports, one for Sonoma County and one for San Joaquin County. In addition, there was an LTA to provide the annual inflation factor, which does not exceed 2%, to be used by county assessors to increase base year values for the January 1, 2022 lien date, as provided by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 51. This annual inflation factor is based on the California Consumer Price Index, and this year it is going to be 2%. We also issued an LTA to provide the property tax calendar for 2022. This calendar provides action and compliance dates of importance to assessing officials and taxpayers. In addition, we issued an LTA to issue the California Standard Flight Times to be used as part of the allocation formula when valuing certificated aircraft for the 2022-23 fiscal year. And finally, we issued an LTA to issue the vessel valuation factors to be used by county assessors to value vessels for the 2022 lien date. And that concludes my report on letters to assessors. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Fantastic. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Viscus.
Just a quick question, Ms. Lumsden. As I was looking at your remote hearing, especially with the assessors on some of these surveys, I was wondering how that's going, and if, especially moving forward, if it's more efficient, if it doesn't make sense to continue that after COVID here.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Vasquez. If I may, I will be going over the assessment practices survey report in a few minutes. If I can get back to your question.
I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Lumsden, you can continue.
This is Ms. Taylor.
Okay.
The next sub item is appraisal training and certification presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Thank you. So I will now provide a brief report on the BOE's appraisal training and certification program. Since our last meeting, we have taught 2 more virtual classes of our most requested courses. During calendar year 2021, we taught a total of 18 virtual classes and trained a total of 578 students. In addition, BOE staff prepared and presented a virtual CASA webinar on 2021 legislation. CASA, which is the California Assessors Administrative Services Association, is an affiliate of the California Assessors Association. More than 500 people were in attendance to that webinar, which consisted of BOE staff and county assessors and their staff. And in addition, I'd like to provide you with a little bit of statistics so you can have a better perspective on how much we've accomplished in 2021. So in 2018, we provided a total number of in-person classes of 16 and taught 462 students. Now, 5 of those classes were taught by BOE instructors, but the other 11 classes were taught in partnership with county assessor staff. We partner with them to teach some of our classes. So in 2019, we really ramped up our training program, and we ended up teaching a total of 22 classes that year in person and 636 students. Now, 14 of those classes were then taught by BOE instructors, and only 8 of those classes were taught in partnership with the county assessors instructors. In 2021, we were only able to teach 6 of our in-person classes and 176 students before COVID hit, the COVID pandemic. So after that, we had to cancel all remaining classes, and we were not able to teach any more in-person classes since that time. We spent the rest of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 figuring out a way to continue teaching BOE staff as well as county assessors and their staff to help with this continuing education. And so finally in 2021, in April, we began our first virtual class. We ended up teaching a total of 18, as I mentioned before, a total of 18 classes that year, last year, and taught 578 students. The most notable part of this is all 18 of those classes were taught by BOE instructors. So we've really we've really accomplished a lot in coming up with a way to teach these classes and continue teaching them while we still are in the progress of trying to improve our virtual training classes. We definitely have made a lot of improvements since we started, and we will continue into 2022 making those improvements and look forward to when we can do a hybrid of teaching some in-person classes and some virtual classes. And with that, that concludes my report on training and certification, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Colleagues, any questions? All right, seeing no hands. Ms. Taylor?
The next sub-item is assessment practices surveys presented by Ms. Lumsden.
Thank you. So this will be a brief report on the BOE's assessment practices surveys. And for calendar year 2021, we completed and issued assessment practices survey reports for the following 9 counties: San Diego County in District 4, Alpine County in District 1, Yuba County in District 1, Orange County in District 4, Lassen County in District 1, Calaveras County in District 1, Nevada County in District 1, San Joaquin County in District 1, and then Sonoma County in District 2. These survey reports were issued via letters to assessors and are posted on the BOE's website. In addition, we are actively working on completing surveys and or samples for 11 other counties, 6 in District 1, 3 in District 2, 1 in District 3, and 1 in District 4. These surveys and samples are in various stages of completion, and as they are completed, a copy of the report is provided to each of the board members' offices and for their preview. Staff also continues to conduct surveys and samples remotely. In doing so, we work closely with each assessor and their staff to determine the best way to collect the necessary information and data in the least impactful way to the county as possible. And that requires us to work with their IT staff as well as our own IT staff to make that happen. And that concludes my report on assessment practices surveys. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Vasquez?
Now I will ask my question.
All right.
Given what you're doing on the remote side, I was wondering how that, if it was that efficient that you may want to continue it even after COVID.
So thank you for that question, Mr. Vasquez. So our plan is to learn from the situation that we've been forced to be in, which is doing things remotely. And we've found that there are some efficiencies in it. And then we found that there's also some challenges in getting things remotely. So we're doing the best that we can during this time because this is what we have to work with. However, going forward, we will probably do some functions remotely, but we do look forward to going back to doing in-person surveys as well. We do find that the interaction between our staff and the assessor staff is extremely helpful, and it's both a learning process for both our staff and their staff, and we're better able to assist them being there in person and answer questions and just have that, build that, that camaraderie and, it's just a better experience for the whole entire program. So while we do think that there are some great things that have come out of being able to get the information remotely, and we do plan on hoping to continue to use that, we do look forward to having some kind of a hybrid put in place where we would go back to doing in-person surveys and samples as well. And hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that you would do some kind of a hybrid system. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's been great about being forced into doing things remotely, and also with our training as well, having to do our virtual classes. It's really taught us a lot about what works and what, maybe isn't working so well. And we plan on using those experiences going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, colleagues, are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, Ms. Taylor.
Our fourth sub-item is state assessed property presented by Ms. Cruz.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable members. My name is Michelle Cruz. I'm the manager in the State Assessed Property Division. Today, I will provide information on the status of the ongoing work in our division. First, I'll start off with audits. All property tax audits have been completed. Audit staff have been flexible while working with state assessees in obtaining information for our audits, as many assessees face limitations on accessing documents in their respective offices due to COVID-19 restrictions. The majority of audits have completed the review process, and several audits will come before the board in February for the board's consideration. Second is our annual capitalization rate study. Staff are working diligently on compiling data for this year's annual capitalization rate study. Appraisers with knowledge and experience in each of our industry groups are working together to obtain current market data, which is used in the study. While it is still early in the data gathering portion of the process, staff have already received input from some state assessees. We will continue to make ourselves available to any assessees that would like to share any data or thoughts on this year's study. That concludes my report on the status of our division's ongoing work for this month. I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Colleagues, do we have any questions for Ms. Cruz? No? Okay. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you. The fifth sub-item,
Thank
Welfare
you.
Exemption Process Improvement Project, will be presented by Ms. Keach.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable members of the board. My name is Lauren Keach, and I'm the manager of the Welfare Exemption section of the Property Tax Department. Today, I will provide you with an update on the Welfare Exemption Supplemental Clearance Certificate Process Improvement Project. Our goal for the project is to streamline the SEC process for claimants seeking to exempt low-income rental housing from property taxation. We have identified opportunities for improvement and ways to increase efficiency when processing SEC claims. Since the last board meeting, staff has completed our examination of the application process. Staff analyzed and revised the checklist and claim form, which was submitted for internal review and was approved. During this examination, staff considered the common reasons for an incomplete claim that can delay processing, which are frequently discussed with the claimants. And these discussions with taxpayers on these items has provided insight on necessary clarifications to include in the form revisions. So the outcome of these revisions make it less cumbersome for claimants to navigate the SEC claim form and make the claim form more user-friendly, which accomplishes our goal of providing a more clear and concise application process. We have now posted the updated claim form to our website for claimants to utilize, and this completes the third and final phase of the application process of our project. We will continue to keep record of common reasons involved in incomplete claims following the newly implemented form revisions and make necessary adjustments to ensure the success of this component of the project. We have now moved on to phase one of the claims process of our project, which is to review each step in reviewing claims that is required in order to grant an SEC. In our internal analysis, we will look for ways to simplify, improve, and modernize each step in the SEC claims process. And as we move forward with this project, we will continue to provide updates and information regarding our progress and improvements to allow for visibility into the process and ensure that the board members are kept informed. Members, this concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Keach?
Just one quick one, Madam Chair.
Mr. Vasquez?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Keach, you know, I was in the whole process that you've gone through, especially with these applications, I was just wondering, how did you determine where were some of the areas that needed to be improved?
Well, as I mentioned, we did consider the common reasons for an incomplete claim. We are frequently discussing the issues that we come across with taxpayers, so that did provide a great amount of insight into some necessary revisions to make. So we keep a log of all these incomplete claims and the inquiries from taxpayers, and we considered that in our review of this process. So.
And currently, do we have like a, I guess a section that would be like for questions and answers kind of section in this process that you're putting together?
As part of this process?
Yes. Yes.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure that that is a component in this process, but it's definitely something we can consider. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? All right, seeing none, Ms. Keach, thank you. Ms. Taylor? Ms. Taylor, is there any public comment on these reports?
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
Okay, if you'd like to make public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. And we have no one in queue at this time.
All right, thank you. Well, Ms. Taylor, if there's no further discussion, could we please call the next item?
Certainly. The next item is K4A, Legislative Research and Statistic Division Chief's Report, Update on Legislative Issues, Update on the Administrative and Program-Related Legislative Bills Impacting the BOE. This item will be presented by Mr. Weatherby.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Good afternoon. Again, board members, Dustin Weatherby, Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. So the legislature reconvened for the final year of the 2021-2022 legislative session on January 3rd, and currently are working through 2-year bills remaining in their House of Origin. Both legislative appropriations committees conducted their suspense file hearings on Thursday in time for Friday's fiscal committee deadline. Any 2-year bills that were keyed fiscal and were not sent to the floor in their respective House of Origin are no longer in consideration for the legislative session. The next big legislative deadline is next Monday's House of Origin deadline for 2-year bills. The House of Origin deadline means any legislation that is still pending in its House of Origin must be passed the second House to still be considered for the legislative year. Any bills that fail to leave their House of Origin will no longer be considered this year. Attached to the PAN is a summary of legislation affecting the Board of Equalization. To date, no major legislation affecting the BOE or its programs have been introduced or amended. The legislature has until February 18th to introduce any legislation, and I will continue to monitor the legislature for any new introductions or amendments that affect the BOE or its programs. This will conclude my presentation on this item, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Let's see if there's any questions. I see Mr. Vasquez, he's got his hand up.
Just a real quick one. Were you going to get into AB 1206, or should I ask a question about it now?
You asked the question now.
Okay. What I guess are you able to first of all provide like a brief overview of AB 1206 for the members, especially as it pertains to the whole property taxation piece on affordable housing? And I had a couple comments on that.
Yeah, so AB 1206 has to do with the welfare exemption for community land trust. So currently what that bill is trying to do is, under statute, many low-income housing providers receive the property tax exemption if their tenants within units make up to 140% of the area's median income adjusted for the respective household size of the unit. Under current statute, it's interpreted that community land trusts don't have that up to the 140% adjusted median income threshold. And so this bill would also allow community land trusts to be under that same income level for purposes of receiving the welfare exemption.
Okay.
And just for the members and yourself, first of all, thank you. And I just wanted to state for the record that I am very supportive of the provision in this bill, because I think it really, if we follow it to the letter of the law that they're presenting here, it'll hopefully protect some of these low-income folks that are in these low-income housing projects that are being built. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, any other questions for Mr. Weathersby? All right, seeing none, thank you for your presentation, Dustin.
Yes, AT&T moderator, would you let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Okay, once again, if you'd like to make public comment, please press 1, then 0. 1, 0. And we have no one in queue at this time.
Thank you. The next item is K4C1, Legislative Research and Statistic Division Chief's Report, Agency's 2022 Legislative Proposals, Alcoholic Beverage Tax to amend Section 32471.5 of the Revenue and Taxation Code. Amend to extend the sunset date for the offer and compromise for open and active businesses for 5 years. This matter will be presented by Mr. Weatherby.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. So attached to the public agenda notice, I have provided the board with one legislative proposal and its respective analysis for consideration by the board for inclusion in the BOE's 2022 legislative package. If approved by the board, I will work with the legislature to move the sponsored proposal through the legislative process. So this particular proposal would amend Revenue and Taxation Code Section 32471.5 relating to the alcoholic beverage tax program and the offers and compromise program. Specifically, this proposal extends the expiring January 1st, 2023 sunset for offers and compromise for open and active businesses for an additional 5 years until January 1st, 2028, and raises the threshold for which the executive director and chief counsel can compromise reduction of tax liabilities from $7,500 to $10,000. This proposal continues a program that taxpayers can utilize while aligning our program with other tax programs for ease of administration and efficiency. The board has sponsored legislative bills in the past to continue to extend the program for assisting taxpayers, and this proposal will continue the board's previous work in this space. This proposal would result in only minuscule fiscal impacts to the state for any tax liabilities that have been compromised. This will conclude my presentation on this legislative proposal, and I'm available to answer any questions.
You're muted there, Madam Chair.
Thank
So
you. I saw Mr. Schaefer's hand first, and then we'll go to Mr. Vasquez and then Mr. Gain.
Mr. Weatherby, I noticed we raised the area of compromise from 7,500 to 10,000. Was that arrived at through the passage of time and inflation, making the amounts, or is it arrived at just because it's been a long time, like 5 or 10 years? Why isn't it from 7,500 to say 15,000? I have a lot of faith in the wisdom of those that are working for us, and it's always subject to review.
Thank you, Vice Chair Schaefer, for that question. So the thresholds that are current in statute were added in 2002 and have not been updated since the offer and compromise program was enacted then. So currently that $7,500 to $10,000 threshold is kind of this middle, a third lane per se, to where if there's a reduction that falls within that, the board would have to then delegate the authority to the ED and chief counsel to compromise that tax liability, whereas this change would essentially get rid of that middle lane and just authorize the ED and the chief counsel to reduce the tax liability below $10,000, and anything in excess of that $10,000 threshold would be under the board's purview.
I want to go on record that whatever larger amount you come up with, I would support it.
Mr. Vasquez, I think you were next, and then we'll go to Mr. Gaines.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the report, Mr. Weatherby. And I just want to express my support for the suggested proposal because I believe it's consistent with the offer of the compromise program. So you have my vote and support.
Great. Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, thank you. I just, it sounds like we're doing this as a result of the passage of time, inflation, and efficiency. Is that the purpose?
Well, the sunset date was expiring, so it's going to expire in January. So we're coming back through to do the 5-year sunset extension. A lot of the other tax and fee programs are also raising their threshold to that $10,000 limit to allow whichever agency staff to be able to compromise that liability. So this is just going to kind of move the alcoholic beverage tax program into kind of a conformity with some of the other tax and fee programs. So they wouldn't have a separate administration of just this one tax program.
Okay, all right. So that speaks to me in terms of just operating in a more efficient manner. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That would be correct.
Yeah, great. All right.
Rather than having those 3 lanes, it would just be a 1-lane decision, and then whichever path it goes down, that's where the compromise would go.
That's great. Yeah, I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, board member.
Are there any other questions? All right, I appreciate your presentation. I think it's actually something that I'm also interested in supporting. So appreciate that, Mr. Weathersby. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Would you like?
I'm sorry, it looks like Yvette Stour has a question.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I don't have a question. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe you were going to get public comment and then, because this is an action item.
It is an action item.
Yeah, but I spoke too soon.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, let's go ahead and take public comment on this item, and then we'll do the motion and everything after.
Certainly. AT&T moderator, would you please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to make public comment, please press 1, then 0. 1, 0. And currently we have no one in queue.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stowers, I'll put it back to you.
Move to sponsor the proposed legislation.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vasquez. Let's take a vote.
The motion on the floor is to approve the sponsoring of the proposed legislation. Chair Cohen.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Taylor?
The next item is K5, Taxpayers Rights Advocate Office Report, an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. This matter will be presented by Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and honorable board members. I am Lisa Thompson, Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I'm here to provide you with an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office and projects to keep you informed. I am pleased to share with you some statistics on the number of cases that were completed by the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office last month and provide some insight on the types of those cases. In December 2021, we completed 29 cases. 7 were in Board Member Gaines's district, 9 were in Board Member Cohen's district, 5 were in Board Member Vasquez's district, and 8 were in Board Member Schaefer's district. Of the 29 cases that were completed, 8 were in the administrative category and 21 were in the valuation category. The administrative category includes topics such as creating and mailing of tax bills, refunds, penalty cancellations, defaulted taxes, access to data, special assessments, or direct levies on the property tax bill. The valuation category includes topics such as change in ownership, declines in value, appraisal methodology, exclusions, exemptions, new constructions, enrollment of values, general property taxation, and assessment appeals. With respect to the administrative category, 3 cases involved delinquent or defaulted taxes, 2 involved penalties, 2 involved special assessments, and 1 in the general tax category. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office assisted these taxpayers by providing information about property tax due dates versus delinquency dates and the availability of payment plans with the tax collector's office, as well as on special assessment charges billed on the property tax bill. Additionally, for the general tax payment category, we help the taxpayer understand what a county tax collector issues to a taxpayer upon request to support that there is not an outstanding tax liability on a mobile home before they sell that mobile home, and that is different from a mobile home certificate evidencing ownership. With respect to the valuation category, and it's 19 cases in total, 5 pertain to change in ownership, 2 pertained to decline in values. 7 cases addressed exclusions from reassessments, of which pertain to the base year value transfer exclusion for persons age 55 and over. 2 cases pertain to the parent-child exclusion. 1 case involved the disabled veterans exemption. 2 pertain to actual enrollment of values, and 2 cases pertain to general property taxation. With respect to the change in ownership cases, 1 pertained to a supplemental assessment, 1 for a reassessment beyond the purchase price, and 2 involved legal entities, and 1 pertained to a change in a method of holding title with proportionate interest. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office provided information and explained the provisions of property tax law requiring reassessment for property upon a change in ownership or new construction, and helped the taxpayers understand that an assessor must reassess property at its market value as of the date of change in ownership. And that also the purchase price may not represent market value. In the cases of legal entities, we were able to work with the assessor's office to enable the original base year value to be restored on the property after a recorded rescission deed were processed by the assessor's office. And we helped the taxpayer understand that the removal of one partner from a partnership causes that property to be subject to reassessment because a change in control under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 64C occurs. Additionally, for the case where property was transferred to a trust, we were able to work with the assessor's office to enable the taxpayer to have its reassessment reversed because a proportionate exclusion could be supported and 4 years of taxes were refunded. For the decline in value cases, the TRA office provided information on property taxation in California and the assessment of real property at the lower of factored base year value and market value. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office helped the taxpayers understand that the properties had been assessed under a decline in value status for many years, and the Assessor's Office enrolled increased assessed values for taxpayers in that area for 2021. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained their appeals rights and explained that they could contact the Assessor's Office to request an informal review of its value for its property. And there were 9 cases involving exclusions, of which 7 addressed the base year value transfer for exclusions for seniors aged 55 and over. The issues involved the base year value transfer cases varied among these taxpayers. However, 4 pertain to base year values in place prior to Proposition 19, and 3 pertained to that of Proposition 19. In 2 of the cases, the taxpayers had purchased their intended replacement property in a county that did not have an ordinance in place accepting base year value transfers from other counties. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained the requirements of the base year value transfer provisions of Proposition 60 and 90, implemented by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 69.5, which was in place prior to April 1st, 2021. Which was the effective date for the base year value transfer provisions of Prop 19. We helped the taxpayers understand that there were only 10 counties in the state allowing inter-county transfers, those from other counties that were under Section 69.5. In 2 of the cases, they concerned base year value transfer provisions under Proposition 60 within the same county. And in 1 case, the taxpayer was unable to buy a replacement home within the 2-year time frame required to complete the transfer due to COVID-19. The TRA office explained the requirements of the base year value transfer provisions of Prop 60 and 90, as well as the requirements for Proposition 19. And our office helped the taxpayers understand that neither our agency or county assessors have the authority to extend that 2-year deadline, and that it was constitutionally as well as statutorily provided. We referred them to those constitutional and statutory provisions that required the purchase of the replacement be within 2 years and indicated that a constitutional amendment would be required to change that 2-year period. 3 of the cases concerned base year value transfers under Proposition 19. In 2 of those cases, the taxpayers were concerned about not qualifying for a base year value transfer because original home wasn't receiving the homeowner's exemption, even though their primary was their primary residence. And in 1 of the cases, the taxpayer was concerned because the tax bill that they needed to pay by December 10th was higher than expected because the assessor's office had not yet approved the taxpayer's base year value request. And in this case, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained to the taxpayers the general requirements for base year value transfer, and that the property must be eligible for the homeowner's exemption, and that the base year value isn't automatic, and that an assessor's office must first process that claim and approve the application before it is granted. Additionally, we explained that the 2021 property tax bill represents the property's assessed value as of the January 1, 2021 lien date, which was that of the prior owners, which doesn't change. We explained that once an assessor's office approves the base year value transfer, then a negative supplemental assessment would be issued for the difference between the amount of the assessment on the roll, that would be what was billed on the property tax bill, and the amount that the assessor determined to be the new taxable value of the replacement property, considering the taxable value of that with the factor of base year value transfer and any excess market value. With respect to the last 2 cases involving exclusions, they involved the parent-child transfer. 1 case involved a taxpayer being reassessed after they sold the property to a private party. The taxpayer had received an unsecured tax bill after they sold that property that they had inherited after their mother had died, and they didn't realize they should have filed a change in ownership statement reporting the death of that real property owner, and they didn't realize they needed to file a parent-child claim form. Fortunately, the supplemental assessment notice was recently issued, so we helped the taxpayer understand that they could still file the parent-child exclusion claim since it was within 6 months of that notice. We coordinated with the assessor's office since there was a financial burden to the taxpayer, and the claim was approved with the reassessment quickly reversed and the unsecured tax bill canceled. The other parent-child exclusion claim involved inheritance of a rental property when the taxpayer's mother had passed away. The taxpayer was worried that they would be taxed on the market value of that property due to the passage of Proposition 19. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office reviewed the information and helped the taxpayer understand that the date of death was the date of change in ownership rather than the date of distribution. So because the mother had passed away in late 2020, the intergenerational provisions of Proposition 19 were not yet in effect for the parent-child exclusion, even though it was a rental property. So the taxpayer was relieved, and then they filed the correct claim form. So they'll be able to qualify for that parent-child exclusion. The TRA office completed work on 1 exemption case, which pertained to the disabled veterans exemption. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office provided information on the disabled veterans exemption and explained how the assessor had properly applied the disabled veterans exemption to the taxpayer's supplemental assessment and then following year's assessment. The remaining 4 cases involved enrollment of values and general property taxation. With respect to the cases involving enrollment of values, in 1 case, a taxpayer disputed receipt of a tax bill of selling a vessel, boat, which the organization thought was not in the Bay Area as of the January 1st, 2021 lien date, and the other disputed a tax bill for a mining claim. In both cases, we coordinated with the assessor's office to resolve the issues, and the TRA office was able to help locate information from the Bureau of Land Management on the mining claim to support cancellation of the assessment and resulting tax bill. With respect to the two cases involving general property taxation, one taxpayer had concerns about an escape assessment that had been made pertaining to a change in ownership event that had occurred 15 years earlier. And the other was concerned that he was being taxed for a possessory interest on a home purchased on Indian tribal land. For the case involving the escape assessment, we helped the taxpayer understand that a change in ownership had been missed by the assessor's office and that the law permitted the assessor's office to correct a base year value, but limits the enrollment of escapes to the most recent 4 years assessments. For the home that was purchased on an Indian reservation, we helped the taxpayer to understand he could provide a copy of his certificate of membership to the tribe along with evidence of real property ownership on the leased land to avoid the possessory interest assessment. The next item that I would like to report on to keep the members informed is on the progress that was made regarding taxpayer education and the consensus of the top 5 topics in need of taxpayer education. As I mentioned at last month's board meeting, at the August 2021 board meeting, board member Cohen inquired about taxpayer education, followed by other board member discussion and the value to taxpayers. I explained that in 2022, part of our plan for taxpayer education was to work in collaboration with the California Assessors Association to identify the top 5 issues or topics in need of taxpayer education, then develop material addressing those topics. The past president of the California Assessors Association, the Honorable San Diego County Assessor Ernie Dronenberg, and I coordinated on these topics. And he forwarded my correspondence with him on the topics in need of taxpayer education to the current CAA president and the Honorable Leslie Morgan, who is the Shasta County Assessor. I spoke with President Morgan, and she is in agreement that the topics our office identified were the most pressing issues where taxpayer education was needed. We solicited the assessors on what they thought were the top 5 topics that could benefit from taxpayer education. Our office identified 5 plus 1 more that we felt were in need of taxpayer education. And from the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office perspective, our thoughts on needed taxpayer education were as follows. Intergenerational transfers under Proposition 19 between parents and children. Intergenerational transfers under Proposition 19 between grandparents and grandchildren. Base year value transfers under Proposition 19, persons age 55 and over. Base year value transfers under Proposition 19, disabled persons. And property tax welfare exemption for nonprofit organizations. And the last would be change in ownership reporting requirements when a real property owner dies. As the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office publishes these information sheets on the various topics in 2022, we will coordinate with the CAA president so she can notify assessors of the availability of the material that she can share, that they each can share with taxpayers in their counties. At future board meetings, I will provide further updates to keep you informed. The last item that I would like to update you on is progress for the TRA annual report for fiscal year 2021. That has been submitted to the Forms and Publication section, and we anticipate the publication being ready for the February board meeting. This includes my update on the activities of the TRA office. I'm available to answer any questions.
Colleagues, are there any questions? Vice Chair Schaefer.
Ms. Thompson, it's glad. Good news that your annual report will be out, it looks like a little earlier this year, and I look forward to seeing it. It's always a quality product. I'll tell you, what is it that 48 counties do not have and 10 counties do have? The same you were telling us that 10 counties have it and 48 don't. Well, you just said 10 have it, and I should have listened to it, maybe not 48 don't.
So, so previously, okay, so for base year value transfers, until Proposition 19, so one of the provisions with Proposition 19 made it so all 58 California counties accept base year value transfers. So you can transfer it, your base year value from any house that you have to another state.
I was thinking we should, maybe the board send a communication to the 48 the counties that didn't have it, but it seems like this has already been solved.
Thank you for that. So, oh, sorry. So thank you for that. So let me just maybe clarify a little bit more. So until Proposition 19 passed, Proposition 60 and 90, which were the prior base year value provisions that were actually codified by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 69.5, what it allowed is it allowed transfer, it allowed persons age 55 and over to transfer their base year value from a property to another once in a lifetime. That was what was prior law. And it could be within the county. So within your own county, you could do that. But if a base year value transfer was to be accepted in another county, that the law required that that county adopt an ordinance. So the County Board of Supervisors would have had to adopt an ordinance accepting base year value counties from transfers from another county. And in that case, there were only 10 in the state.
So
we've
now remedied so that all 58 counties, you can do a transfer.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the benefits of Proposition 19, that it changed. So now it's permitted to any of the 58 counties. So
the other concern I have is you said there were 9 cases that you assisted with in District 4. Can I assume these 9 people are happy, or is there something I can do as their representative to seek some change or do my job?
yeah, so so yeah, all taxpayers that come to our office, you know, we assist them in helping them understand and resolve their problems. So yes, that is part of our job. So in one way or another, we do resolve their situation and help them understand it. It may not result in them receiving, say, a reduction in assessed value, but it helps them understand why they were treated fairly according to property tax law to have, you know, independence of voice.
Do the assessors in District 4 that you work with, you're not duplicating your services, you're both assisting them, or you don't really know whether they've had contact with the assessor or not?
No, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office is not duplicative of what an assessor's office does, nor is it duplicative of any of the functions that our other, you know, departments within our agency, such as the Property Tax Department is. But we help them resolve situations. We help taxpayers with problems that they have with the assessment or collection of property taxes on their property. So that's what we do, and it could vary. You know, oftentimes they just want a second opinion to, you know, so they can understand why they were, why an action was done by a particular assessor's office for them, and that. So we try to facilitate.
Some assessors have a more extensive taxpayer outreach than other assessors. So you're there that in any county, taxpayer can go to your office.
Absolutely any taxpayer can do that, but I can't address how an assessor's office has outreach, but I am aware that all county assessor's office do definitely, you know, have customer service and value their constituents and helping them, of course. But we help them if they have a problem that, you know, that they're seeking. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Well, good. Thank you for the good job you did.
Senator Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like these top 6 priorities are all Prop 19 in terms of our, you know, taxpayer issues.
Well, four of them are, and one of the 4 definitely. plus the sixth item that actually we identified. I tie it into this, and it's change in ownership reporting requirements when a real property owner dies. And we have seen this in the past where people just aren't aware that when a real property owner dies, say your parent passes away, of their reporting obligations and the importance that they notify the assessor that this happens. And so we've seen this in the past, and then we think it is particularly important now to know it more timely. Now that in order to receive a parent-child transfer exclusion under Proposition 19, the child has to move into the house. And so, we think that's important. So they have to know. So yes. If you don't know, I mean, it's a very distressing time when you have a parent pass, and not everybody knows that they're supposed to tell the assessor's office or record an affidavit of death. That's not maybe a priority. Maybe they don't have attorneys to help them navigate the process, or they can't afford it. And so we feel that if we kind of have more information out there where a child might know, oh, this is what I need to do, then they'll report this change in ownership statement, which will lead them to a question, because on the change in ownership statement, one of the things are indicated, well, if the transfer was to a child, then you'll need to file the parent-child claim form to be excluded. So that's an indication. So I think that's kind of particularly important for taxpayers. So that's why we tied it in. So it's not directly related to it, but it definitely ties in. So yeah. So 4 and 5 is the fifth one is definitely has some correlation to it. But we just think it's important for a lot of things, because it might result in reassessment at the time, and it might result in them moving in and taking advantage of the parent-child transfer exclusion.
Sure. Yeah,
so
thank you. And I don't think it's an issue that really ever goes away, because I think the estimates are that 60 to 80,000 properties change hands as a result of death a year in the state of California. So because of the passage of Prop 19, I think it's incumbent on all of us and the BOE that we continue that communication so that people understand this. And I think, Lisa, you brought up this great example with this case on the change of ownership between parent and child, and it fell within that 6-month time frame, so they were okay. My fear is that people are not going to be aware of this, and we as a board have to make sure that we push out this information so that our constituents are aware of the changes that have occurred as a result of Prop 19, and it has to be a consistent message. So that's something I want to work on in my own district, but I think we as a board ought to be looking at how can we elevate our ability to communicate what are very important issues that can make a big difference in the lives of our constituents in terms of the amount of taxes they're going to pay on their homes. So thanks for your presentation. I always love to hear the different examples that you're presenting in all of our districts, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Colleagues, anyone else? Any other questions? Let me see. I see Mr. Vasquez's hand.
Yes, real quick. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Thompson, for the report. And I was just glad to hear about the joint effort with the CAA to determine the top 5 topics needed for the taxpayer education in 2022. And I look forward to hearing some of the results when they are available. But getting back to your report, when you were talking about especially grandparents or just parents passing on and they're doing this transition of the Prop 19, what happens if somebody like a grandparent or even the parents have income property listed as a corporation and the kids are listed under that corporation? Is that considered a change of ownership?
Okay, well, so it is a change. It depends on the change in ownership. So, okay, so first of all, if property is owned by a legal entity, that's not something that's generally eligible for the parent-child transfer. I mean, you have this whole thing. It's typically an LLC is an owner of a primary residence, so you have that situation now. I mean, it's generally for a business, but it depends. So, like, if you have a change for change in ownership purposes, there's the general requirement is, you know, if you have a property transfer, so a property actually transfers. But in the case where like a decedent, a parent, owned a limited liability company or a corporation, it depends what kind of ownership. So let's say a person, a dad, owns an LLC and it's 100%, it's wholly owned. So he's the only one that owns 100% of the membership interest in it. And then that LLC, in his will or his, trust, whatever it is, his decedent, say his 3 children are given each 33 1/3% interest in that corporation. That is not a change in ownership, because for a legal entity, so the property is still owned by the LLC, so there's no change there, and a change in control of that limited liability doesn't happen, company doesn't happen, because each person only has 1/3. But let's just say that that parent only has 1 child, or they choose to give it to 1 child. And if one person obtains more than 50% interest, then that causes a change of control under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 64C, which will result in all of that property that's owned by the LLC and being subject to reassessment. So it depends, but it can, absolutely.
Interesting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Gaines, I wanted to go back to one of the points that you made. Ms. Thompson, I thought Mr. Gaines made an interesting point that I wanted just to quickly revisit. It has to go with identifying the topics and identifying the issues, the topics of priorities. I don't know, Ms. Thompson, maybe we send our suggestions to you, but I want to remind some of the board members that identifying the topic issues for education and outreach resulted in a board request. And Ms. Thompson, we appreciate your response to that board request. Actually, I think you did an excellent job. It was very thorough, your response. But Senator Gaines, in his remark, made an excellent point about the priorities that are identified. And the Executive Director Fleming is there listening. Okay. And I was wondering if, Ms. Fleming, I was wondering if we could, or if we should, allow board members to provide feedback on the priority items identified and offer additional suggestions based on what we are also hearing from our constituents, based on the feedback that Ms. Thompson is hearing from constituents. And by doing so, we allow for a more comprehensive review. I think Ms. Fleming is frozen. Okay, so Ms. Thompson, just wanted to see if there was a way that we can work on where those priorities, how they're coming to you and what they are, just so we can weigh in.
Well, I think that, you could certainly, in each of the board members, if they have some constituents that they have worked with directly, because of course, your office sometimes refers taxpayers to us to assist them. So they would know those taxpayers and what their issues were. But certainly each of your member districts would have helped, could also help taxpayers without referring them to our office. If you'd like to email me, directly and just copy board member, copy Executive Director Fleming on that email, that would be fine to hear your thoughts. And we're definitely interested, in those areas, but and look into developing them. So absolutely.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have no other. Oh, Mr. Vasquez.
I'm sorry, that was an old hand. I'm sorry.
Okay, old hand, no problem. All right. Well, thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Yes, would we like to call for public comment?
I would, thank you.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
Certainly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to make a comment, please press 1 followed by 0 on your touch tone phone. 1 followed by 0. And Madam Chair, we have no one in queue. Please
All
continue.
right, thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Taylor, is there a motion for this item?
No, there is not.
No motion. Okay, thank you. Let's call the next one.
The next item is L1A, Property Tax Abatement Board Work Group Update. The board will receive an update on the strategy and proposed plan to convene the Property Tax Abatement Board Work Group and provide any suggestions and/or recommendations regarding the proposed plan. This matter will be presented by Chair Cohen.
Yes, thank you very much. Just give me a second, colleagues. Let me pull up my notes on this one. This is a pretty extensive conversation I want to have. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate just a few minutes of your time. So board members, what I'd like to do at this time is I want to present the first item, the L item, as you heard, L1A, the Property Tax Abatement Workgroup Update. It's my goal this afternoon to provide you an update on the strategy and the proposed plan to convene the Property Tax Abatement Workgroup. I will highlight the work group's preliminary review of some of the challenges and opportunities to consider when proposing property tax abatement policies to spur affordable housing, and particularly to address the housing needs of the low income and what we also call the middle income, the missing middle. I want to begin by reiterating that the governor and the legislature are committed to building 3.5 million homes by 2025. And to address this unprecedented housing crisis, this amounts to building 500,000 units of housing per year, which is actually approximately 420,000 more units than is currently being built on an average across the state of California. So it's a pretty ambitious and audacious goal. And as the Board of Equalization, I believe we are in a unique position to continue the discussions we initiated in 2019 to explore what contributions we are positioned to make in the property tax space, specifically to spur affordable housing development. I want to spend a couple minutes to talk a little bit about jurisdiction and background. So for purposes of placing this discussion in context, it's important for me to take a few foundational statements before I provide the work group update. First, as a body, we have often asked and been asked the question about what's within our jurisdiction. Of course, we are all extremely cautious to respect the role of the governor and the legislature in developing and passing laws for the benefit of California residents. However, as constitutional officers with the administrative responsibilities associated with the complex $80 billion property tax system that we are available to convene, we are available to convene discussions similar to what we started in 2019. So if you recall, in November of 2019, the board meeting, we were given a background memorandum that consisted of a property tax exemption review for affordable housing. And at that time, we also agreed to review testimony to review property tax exemptions in order to spur the development of affordable housing. In December 2019, in the December 2019 and the January 2020 and the February 2020 board meetings, we received testimony from housing experts and various stakeholders. Our presenters included, I'm going to give you a record of who presented to us: Mayor Steinberg, who was the mayor of Sacramento; Marina Wyant, who was the Vice President of Government Affairs, California Housing Consortium; Francis Marti, Director of Legislation, also from the California Housing Finance Agency, and Richard Lyon, who is the senior consultant at California Build Industry Association. This testimony was summarized in the July 2021 memorandum sent to board members. Excuse me. At the July 2021 board meeting, this body voted to sponsor necessary legislative proposals or support legislation that would make the welfare exemption more available to new models of low-income housing developments, and to establish a property tax abatement work group to spur the development of affordable housing. Now, since that time, the work group has engaged in outreach to housing development experts and stakeholders and organizations that represent residents as well as home buyers. Today, I'd like to spend a little bit of time highlighting what we learned and our proposed path forward. Historically, some jurisdictions have property tax abatements to incentivize development. Whether it is foregoing or an exempting a tax indefinitely for a designated period of time, or incrementally phasing in a tax, such as what has been taken to stimulate the development on vacant lots, encourage housing development and address housing needs, and spur economic development in general. With the Board of Equalization, the agency has traditionally considered property tax abatement to address penalties, to address interest related to the failure or to pay for late property tax payments. This work group will consider property tax abatements from the lens of incentivizing development, expanding the resource available to government when addressing an unprecedented affordable housing crisis. The work group envisions receiving testimony from the following stakeholders representing government agencies, housing experts, developers, and housing advocates. And this is just to name a few. This is not a comprehensive list. We will examine many of the challenges and questions outlined in the background memo for this agenda item. As you can tell, the stakeholders have proposed very important questions to consider in exploring the use of property tax abatements to spur affordable housing. Now, to answer these questions, to make good faith effort to address the challenges, the work group is actually proposing a very robust agenda as outlined in my background memo that was sent to you. And it's my goal to convene the first work group meeting in April or in May, and to convene 3 work group meetings over a 2 to 3 month period. Once we complete the work group convenings, the work group will issue a white paper that summarizes our findings and provides potential policy recommendations. So in closing, I'd just like to say that I trust that this update is helpful in jogging your memory. This update is also reflects our initial efforts and intentions. We will continue to revise the strategy as we have further discussions with stakeholders. So nothing is set in stone. It is flexible and dynamic. I am also available to answer any questions you may have regarding the things that I have stated this afternoon. So I'm going to now pause and allow for members to ask questions that they may have, and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you. Let me see, are there any questions? Yvette Stowers, please.
Thank you. So you said possible work group meetings in April or May, and then an issue paper. The work group will follow the format that the meetings will be agendized on the PAN and most likely take place after the regular BOE meeting?
Correct.
Is that okay? Okay. So I want to make sure. Okay. I was just more concerned about the format. It's a work group, so that means that it's basically the board members' product and Correct. The board members'
Staff
resources.
doing the work.
Staff. Yeah. Well, so I have to say, I can't complain.
Great.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Ms. Towers. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you for bringing us back up to speed and to update us here. I just wanted to, and moving forward, especially, I support this work group, but I think the memo should be modified a little bit. And my recommendation would be that we get into possible charter drafted that clarifies 2 key facts. And the first one would be that the work group will focus strictly on property tax related housing policy and studies, not specific housing projects, programs, or initiatives in members' districts. My intent was that the work group be public policy focused, while the members are project focused, so that we can utilize our limited resources most effectively from all angles and follow the recommendations in the ED's Affordable Housing Property Tax Relief White Paper that she presented. And then number 2, that the memo's list of challenges and scope on pages 2 and 4 should be limited only to items within the board's jurisdiction. And the title of the work group should also be changed to reflect that. As the ED's report says, our main authority is over property tax exemptions and property value assessment reductions. We don't have jurisdiction over development fees, costs, or abatements, or new home buyer incentives. So I would just kind of caution ourselves on that a little bit and narrow it so the work group is focused a bit to ensure that it isn't out of our wheelhouse, basically. And I'd like to do so by clarifying this through the title, so that the focus is property tax relief, abatement, and exemptions for affordable housing.
Well, Mr. Vasquez, I think we are on the same page. The work group is focused on policies, and respectfully, the issues captured reflect that what we heard from stakeholders. They don't reflect my personal desires. They reflect what we heard from the stakeholders, which was, we engaged them in a fully transparent process.
But we obviously didn't have all the stakeholders present, right? Because
which ones were not there?
Well, for example, there was nobody that was no examples or models, for example, from LA County. Or for that matter, even San Diego County.
It was a fact finding. It's a fact finding process.
I get you, but I'm just telling you, you make it sound like we heard from all the stakeholders. We haven't.
No, I'm not making it. I specifically said that it was not an exhausted list. I said that in my remarks. We haven't heard from everyone. I acknowledge that, but it's a fact-finding process, and we will set an agenda. It will be publicly noticed, and if you feel like anyone wasn't at the table or should be at the table, then you can invite them to join us.
I plan to.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. So I appreciate the time that you've given me. Does anyone else have any other questions, Mr. Gaines?
I do.
Is that your hand I see up?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think just based on the comments, I think this is a great opportunity to make sure that we have everybody at the table, and we've got a couple of months to figure that out. So yeah. I think what you're proceeding with is productive, and if we can provide relief to folks who are in need of housing, that is wonderful. And I was just wondering if you could maybe, can you provide a little more clarity in terms of the types? I'm not asking for specific projects, but what type of projects would qualify for a tax abatement?
That's a good question. I don't think we got into that that level of detail, the types that qualify. I mean, this is really ground floor. We're just trying to establish the working group. It's not project based. It's not a project.
Right, right. But, well, that's just something I'll be looking for as the work group proceeds.
Okay.
Be helpful
Okay, great.
to be
And
able
now
to.
that I know that's what you're looking for, we will flag it as well for you.
Right, wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, are there any other questions? None? All right, Ms. Taylor.
Madam Chair, it looks like Vice Chair Schaefer has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Schaefer, Vice Chair,
Hi,
please.
I'm very supportive of what you're doing. I would like the next incarnation of this report to have a page number on the bottom of the pages so I can refer to page 3 or page 5 or something. And usually when I find that I've only got a handful of words on the last page, I adjust my copy a little bit so it's a page less.
Understood completely. That's easy. We can accommodate that.
Yeah,
Ms. Taylor, no problem. Ms. Taylor, let's go ahead and take public comment.
Thank you. AT&T moderator, please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this item.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. In one moment, we do have a couple that have queued up so far. We're gathering their names.
Okay, thank you.
Our first question or comment will come from the line of Eric Payne. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Payne. I'm a resident of Fresno, California. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to this agenda item. We recognize the housing crisis facing California is greater than anything we've seen in my lifetime. I've listened intently to your discussion this afternoon. I wanted to applaud the Board of Equalization and your executive team for leading on this issue. Our housing challenges in our neighborhoods and communities are real. The Central Valley Urban Institute, the organization in which I'm the executive director of, and our local partners look forward to participating in your property tax abatement work group process. Again, thank you.
Next, we'll go to the line of Michael Lane. Mr. Lane, please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen and members. Michael Lane with SPUR, a public policy think tank in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are in strong support of and grateful for your leadership in exploring tax abatement policies to help address our unprecedented housing crisis in California. We need policy levers and incentives at every level of government to produce the affordable housing we so desperately need. Thank you for convening the relevant stakeholders and experts in a work group that will bring forward effective proposals. We stand ready and willing to support and participate in this important initiative. Thank you.
And next, we'll go to the line of Richard Ayoub. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Richard Ayoub of Agilab Poly, Ayoub, Matarisi, and Broge, a law firm that practices exclusively in state and local taxes, and I've been doing property taxes for 40 years. Today, I'm appearing on behalf of the California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates, and I'm commenting, limiting my comments to the jurisdiction of the board in this area. I wanted to express the opinion for myself and for CATA that we believe this is an appropriate area of involvement by the Board of Equalization. The board has already been in this area through Rule 140 and the welfare exemption requirements with respect to low-income housing. Government Code Section 15606 charges the board with prescribing rules and supplying advice, such as handbooks and the like, in all areas of property tax. So I think it's more than appropriate that the board weigh in here. As a consequence of all of that expertise, The board is intimately familiar with the issues of low-income housing, particularly in all the work and background on Rule 140. I've experienced personally inconsistent application of Rule 140, and the board's guidance has always been very helpful whenever we're dealing with those issues from county to county. The board's involvement in this process of any property tax abatement is crucial. The board has a handle on the fiscal issues through its annual reports of the assessments in each county. They know the effect that any exemption will have, and they're in the best position to help make the policy judgments that are necessary to the process. The board has the expertise, and we believe strongly that it needs to be applied here. Thank you.
And we have no further in queue at this time.
Great, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that public comment. Colleagues, are there any discussion? Okay, so at this time, I'd like to make a motion to form a work group on this very specific item. Is there a second to this motion?
Just point of information, actually, or clarification, Madam Chair. I thought we already had the work group. What is this? Is this different?
Sorry. You're right. We do have the work group already. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to use the work group to
This is what I
organize
have. I have.
coming up, right? Yeah.
So Chair Cohen, this is Brenda Fleming, Executive Director, if I may, ma'am, offer some
Yes.
assistance. So at the prior discussion on this item, there has been a board action and agreement to establish the work group on property tax abatement, as was stated. I think the action or motion for the board's consideration today is just to clarify the next steps as you're looking at sort of standing up or initiating the work group activities. So for example, you consider, like as Ms. Cohen has suggested, the next meeting perhaps could be in the April-May timeframe, just some general guidance or agreement on it being adjacent to a regular board meeting, again, because we wanted these to be transparent, which means all members are involved in participating. And that's to the benefit of the process and including everyone. So from that perspective, Madam Chair, we could consider just, making a comment as a part of the motion that's adjacent to a regular board meeting, et cetera. So it really is just clarifying how you're going to organize and structure it as a board member work group. And then, so this way, the regular board, full board, in this regular meeting is sort of endorsing this, establishing then the operations of the work group. The work group then does its actions and then comes back. So a little bit of just that protocol. So,
Well,
Madam
let
Chair.
me interject here, actually, because I misspoke. There was an error in my notes, and I apologize for the confusion, because this is actually just an informational item only. So there is no action taken. I withdraw my my request for a motion. Thank you very much, Ms. Fleming, for coming in and trying to explain all that. And again, there was an error that my team made that's in my notes, so I apologize for that. So this is only informational because we did get several questions, and so thank you. Now, let's call the next item, Ms. Taylor, please.
The next item is L1B, USC Partnership on BOE Branding Strategy. The board will receive an update on the proposed partnership with the USC Sol Price School of Public Policy to proactively implement a key component of Goal 4 agency-wide branding campaign of the board's strategic plan. This matter will be presented by Chair Cohen and Member Gaines.
Yeah, this is actually a fun topic, I think, of discussion. I know my team has enjoyed working with Senator Gaines' team and pulling this presentation together. So first, I want to open up with just a moment of gratitude, expressing how deeply touched I am by the leadership of the executive director and her team. Also, that goes to say with Senator Gaines' team, and also acknowledging that Melissa Vergara from my office they just really pulled together, and they've made made a fun project. So in making this partnership with the USC School the USC Sole Price School of Public Policy possible. And so when Board Member Vasquez led us in a strategic planning process in 2019, I recommended that we do an agency-wide branding campaign. And it's clear to most of us that we needed to intentionally amplify our focus. And as a result, there's a need for a branding campaign that was formalizing goal 4 of the strategic plan. Now, how many times have we gone places and people just don't know what the Board of Equalization does or its function? And then, it's somewhat, some levels of a branding campaign is also needed when meeting and educating taxpayers. You heard this when the TRA, Ms. Thompson, was making her presentation about people just not being knowledgeable about what they need to do in the death of a loved one when it relates to property. So it's clear that we need to intentionally amplify our focus. We need to continue to have conversations with constituents and other electeds and public in general that demonstrate the need to tell our story. But what's also important is that we are building awareness of our agency's new focus that will foster greater pride within our team members. It would also build upon awareness among taxpayers and the broader public about our government role, our services, and further amplify the Board of Equalization as a trusted source of property tax related information. And I think it's important to support this unique opportunity to collaborate with USC, specifically their Sacramento campus. And what we are proposing is what we would do is partner the university with our executive director and providing an extensive amount of research and data analysis that will begin to support the Board of Equalization. And this collaboration will provide a valuable contribution to our strategic plan priorities. It will expose workforce talent to our agency as a potential organization to pursue their future career goals. Also, over the years, USC Price School MPA capstone projects have provided support and identified solutions for various California state agencies, including the Governor's Office, California Transportation Agency, California Office of Small Business Advocate, the State Library, and the Department of Water Resources. The MPA program is based out of Sacramento and provides an excellent opportunity for students to gain hands-on experience in California state government, but also assists government agencies and the private sector in achieving business objectives. So at this time, I'd like to pivot and ask Senator Gaines to make comments, and then I'd like to ask the executive director to provide some of her insights about this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Cohen, and thank you for your leadership in this great partnership opportunity that we have with the USC Sole Price School of Public Policy. And as you had cited, they have been successful in helping out other state agencies. And so I really look forward to this opportunity in terms of working with them. And I'm excited the fact that we have Peter Kim, who is helping us with our communications. And I think this is a great opportunity for each of us as members of the BOE to work in concert with Peter and his efforts for communicating to our constituents throughout the state. And I have the same questions. I think all of us have the same question. What does the BOE do? And we get that over and over again. And what we do is very important, but people are not aware of it. So anything that we can do to try to elevate the BOE in the sense of educating our constituents so they understand what the BOE does, and then what we can do as electeds of districts in coordination with our communications director and our website, and integrating all these different opportunities of communication. So what services can we provide to our constituents? We want to make sure that we continue to be effective on updates on measures and legislation. Prop 19 is a perfect example of a role that we play that that continues year after year in terms of educating our constituents. District offices, I think, are important. Once we get past the pandemic where we can have a presence in our district that can help constituents. It's so critical, and we're all doing that now, but it'd be nice to have the presence of an office that constituents could come to. Sales tax education. We continue to get a lot of questions about the CDTFA. People still are not aware of BOE.2, what happened in terms of the changes in authority. And we need to figure out a way, how do we get that message out and just continue educating our constituents on the specific roles that we have, but also realize that we can play a role in helping our constituents get where they need to go. So maybe they're having an issue and they've called us because they know who we are, but maybe they need help with the DMV. And I think that's, again, a key role that we just help. We can be that personal touch with the interface between our constituents and government. Assessor education. Our constituents need to understand what the role of the assessors is and what our role is. And we have the unique opportunity with our taxpayer rights advocate, Lisa Thompson, who has been very effective. And how can we utilize her and her team more to help our constituents? I've already mentioned the website, but that's already been ramped up. I'm seeing great improvement on our website services. And then we just need to figure out how to integrate all these things. And I'm very excited about working with the USC Sol Price School of Public Policy and what sort of great ideas that they can come up with that can help us be more effective as electeds to the BOE. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Colleagues, Vice Chair Schaefer.
Thank you. Ms. Cohen is one of the co-chairs of the branding strategy. I appreciate your leadership. I value university partnerships and believe this is a good project for the agency. I look forward to working with Senator Gaines, my colleague, Executive Director Fleming, and the USC Sol Price School of Public Policy on this project. I knew Mr. Price in San Diego, and he was a prominent lawyer and starting the Price Club, which was originally FedMart, and I think is merged today as Costco, and he's left a great legacy in the public interest. Thank you.
Ms. Fleming, hold on, Mr. Vasquez, and then Ms. Fleming.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Member Gaines, for placing this on the agenda. I think it's very timely because I'm planning to present a detailed overview and update on the strategic plan priorities, actions, and deliverables next month. And I will be able to include significant progress on this goal. It is my understanding that this is a separate from the agency's branding campaign, or is it one and the same? I'm not sure. I believe it is important to ensure that the California taxpayers, elected officials, business associations, and others are knowledgeable about the board and about our responsibility for property tax administration. We and the hundreds of taxpayers and assessors found out how important it is for people to reach the right agency and the board members during the past 18 months while handling this pandemic impact, deadlines, and implementation of Prop 19. The only question I would have, and it's more for the agency, is do we have the resources to start working on this now? And do we have to go out to bid for this?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Vasquez, for the question. In this case, this is something that, as from my office specifically, and I'll incorporate some of Mr. Kim's hours and time as our communications chief. We're supporting this board member strategic effort, which we agree. I fully agree that it's important for us to brand, and really what we mean by that is just making sure, as you've identified earlier, that the community, our stakeholders, really know who we are and what we do. And so that's really what we're talking about, so that on behalf of government functions and services, constituents, stakeholders, et cetera, just know to get to the right agency. So from that perspective, I think it's a good thing. And as it relates to the agency strategic plan, which is more on the governmental side, this really gives us an opportunity to integrate that and each leverage each side, because we're still one BOE. So it still gives us an opportunity to integrate all that is occurring. And the board members play a very important role, as has been mentioned, in helping to get information out to the constituents, taxpayers, and all the broad range of stakeholders. So we appreciate that. In this case, this is something that USC sole price master's program has done before with many other agencies, as is indicated in the material. Most do not need, because you're just talking about sort of a capstone working project, and it really falls more in a category of like temporary help for us. So there typically isn't an MOU or any kind of an interagency agreement because there's no cost exchange in it. So oftentimes what we're able to do for some work that I've done historically working with colleges and universities, you can often establish it. And I think we could, with the board's play, okay with this, we could just do it with a letter of agreement from my office that just says we look forward to working with you. But USC has done this in a number of other state agencies, so it's fairly, common practice to have these kinds of arrangements. I think, as the board members brought the topic up in 2019, it just really complements what the agency had already started with their strategic plan. So I think it just adds some additional power to what we're trying to launch. So look forward to working with you.
That's great. Thank you. Just one more quick question for Ms. Fleming. Will the consultant prepare and submit to us a branding plan and the associated budget with it?
So that'll be a part of the working activities, but at a high level, the students who are coming from this program will do a couple of different things. First, spend some time with me, with the board members, and a range of other stakeholders, just to glean the information, right? To get perspectives, documentation, to get a sense of where we stand, kind of a baseline of where we stand in terms of our communication, and also what happens, and compare that with other agencies, et cetera, et cetera. The next step is then to do some research, to collect the information, do the analysis on the information, and then through a periodic updates, we'll provide a report. Member Vasquez will be providing a report back to the co-chairs on this one. We'll take a look at that, and then that material will be presented by the co-chairs to the full board. But yes, there will be ongoing reports, and then kind of their ultimately their recommendations as to what their findings are. So it really would be like, if we had a small project, for example, where some of those temporary help would be just kind of augmenting and collecting information for us. Again, reporting back to the board through the co-chairs with a recommendation. Since this is something about branding and I haven't seen the final work product yet, I can't speak at this moment as to if any costs are associated with it. But most of the costs should be absorbable in terms of we're communicating on our website, those kinds of brands, a lot of just the outreach material that we would prepare normally. So I don't anticipate any budget, needs for this, but I don't want to be premature to not, to not consider that as an option. But at this point, I'm not anticipating that.
No, thank you. I think this is a very positive, step forward. I'm looking forward to seeing the details as it comes out. And wanted to thank once again the chair and the member for bringing this thing forward and for selecting my alma mater here, USC. Thanks.
All right, I think I see a hand from Ms. Stowers.
Thank you, everyone. I do support this initiative, but I also want to point out, since 2019. The agency and you four elected officials have done a lot as far as getting BOE's name out there and what it does. And especially with the hiring of Peter Kim as the Chief Communication Director, the ongoing social media presence with Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, our BOE Prop 19 webpage, the public policy hearings, the board member initiatives, and the board work groups. All of those stand and say something positive about BOE, the new BOE. So don't sell us short in saying that people don't know what we're doing or what we do, because we're doing a lot and you guys have done a lot, especially in this COVID environment. That's all.
All right. Well, thank you for that vote of confidence.
Well said.
Okay. Well, that's all that we have at this point. This is just an informational. Also, the scope of work and the proposal that the students will be proposing for us. I don't know what else to say. I guess that's it.
So, Madam Chair, I'm just hearing nods and seeing from everyone. So just for a board proceedings perspective, I would note this, members, unless you object, you have consensus on us to proceed. So don't need a vote. I think everybody's good with it, but just
right.
Always normally stated for board proceedings records. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
yes.
Do you think we should call for public comment?
Yes, I agree.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
Okay, once again, if you'd like to make public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. And we have no one in queue at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, let's keep moving forward. Ms. Taylor, what else do you have on the agenda?
The next item is L3A, Board Work Group on Wine Industry and Wine Grower Excise Tax Data. Board will discuss and act on the Board Work Group's recommendation to direct the Executive Director to disclose taxpayer data related to the wine industry by zip code, excluding redacted information to preserve taxpayers' confidentiality in accordance with existing law. This matter will be presented by Chair Cohen and Vice Chair Schaefer.
Thank you. Let me get to my notes. Well, again, let me begin by thanking the Executive Director and her staff on working on an administrative solution and a pathway forward. From the start, this process, the preservation of taxpayer confidentiality has been essential to any administrative solution in this area. So kudos for you. Thank you. At our last meeting, in collaboration with the Vice Chair Schaefer and his staff, the Board Work Group unanimously acted to recommend to the board that the board direct the Executive Director to disclose taxpayer data related to the wine industry by zip code, excluding redactions to preserve taxpayers' confidentiality, which of course is in accordance with the existing law. The administrative solution before the board accomplishes this goal, satisfying the needs of the wine industry to remain competitive on the global stage, and is worthy for the board to consider today. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to propose a motion for you guys to consider. We can discuss it, we can take public comment, but I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the work group recommendations, that it directs the Executive Director to disclose taxpayer data related to the wine industry by zip code, that it's been redacted to preserve taxpayer confidentiality in accordance with the law. And again, we just about took action on this last month, but misstated a few things, which is why it's before us again. But we had good discussion, and I think we were all on the same page for this directive that I'm proposing for the Executive Director. Ms. Fleming, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add on this item.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I think, just restating it, members, this is more just a parliamentary step to make sure that the work group is making their official recommendation to the full board in the regular meeting, and then give me the direction which we are prepared to respond.
Thank you. All right, colleagues, are there any questions?
Chair, if you need a second for that, I'll be your second.
I do need a second for it, but first I want to hear from Vice Chair Schaefer, give him an opportunity to make some remarks.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Schaefer.
Well, I've seen your proposed motion, and I am fully in support of it, and I second it. So, I would want you to lay it out to the world, knowing that it's a winner.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, let's take public comment.
AT&T moderator, please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter.
Okay, once again, if you'd like to make public comment, please press 1, then 0. 1, 0. And we have no one in queue at this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Vice Chair Schaefer, we as a team have enjoyed working with your team. Thank you. All right, so a motion has been made, Ms. Taylor. A motion's been seconded. Can we call the roll?
Certainly. The motion on the floor is the board will approve the work group recommendations regarding the executive director to disclose taxpayer data related to the wine industry by zip code, excluding redacted information to preserve taxpayers' confidentiality in accordance with existing law. Chair Cohen?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer? Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Vasquez?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Great, thank you, colleagues. All right, Vice Chair Schaefer, you did it. Thank you. All right, let's Ms. Taylor, could you call the next item?
Yes. The next item is M1, Public Policy Hearings, discussion on the implementation of Proposition 19, the Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled Families, and Victims of Wildfire or Natural Disasters Act of 2020. There are no staff reports or external speakers for this agenda item for this month's meeting. However, persons who wish to address the board on this topic as a public comment may do so.
All right, I just want to say something before we go quickly into closed session. So from the start, this work group was established to address the impacts of COVID-19 and provide guidance to local assessment appeals board. The health and safety of the taxpayers, of the AAB team and members remain our #1 priority in providing guidance, these guidance for remote hearings. And another significant priority is to ensure due process rights of all parties, making sure that they're preserved regardless of an in-person or a remote meeting. So I look forward to the presentation by the executive director. The report on the proposed LTA reflects the consensus of the work group. And we've reached consensus on many of the issues, but there are still a few unsettled differences that remain among the stakeholders. And today I'm confident that we'll make further progress in the work before us and provide an opportunity to further address some of the unresolved matters. And so with that being said, colleagues, before I proceed to the agenda, I just wanted to see if there are any opening remarks from any of the other members. And I don't know, Chair Vasquez, if there's anything that you'd like to say. If so, the floor is yours.
Actually, I'm good at moving this thing forward, and then
Okay.
We'll take it up when we do the hearing, yes.
Okay, great. All right, Ms. Taylor, could you please call on the parties?
Ms. Cohen, this is Executive Director Brenda Fleming. Maybe I can assist with this one. In this case, members, the M item is just a placeholder for the LTA discussion, which will occur tomorrow, Wednesday, January 26th. This is just to highlight it at that point, and that would be on M2. M1 members is on the Prop 19. We just hold that as an open placeholder. Also, should there be any need to take any public policy items up under that category. With your permission.
All right, so you're saying we'll continue this item till tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue this item till tomorrow's hearing. Is there a second?
Second, if you need it.
All right, let's do a vote.
Yeah. Not really needed, ma'am. It's already agendized for tomorrow.
All right.
So you're absolutely good to go. And so with your permission, ma'am, Ms. Taylor can proceed with the N as in Nancy item for comments not on the agenda.
Sure.
All right, thank you. The next item is N, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda. Please note that the board cannot take action on these items. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings. AT&T moderator, will you let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter at this time?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. And we have no one queuing up at this time.
All right, thank you, members. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we will reconvene at 3 o'clock, and we will then go into closed session. We're in recess now. Thank you.
Just a quick question, Madam Chair. So do we log back into this one, or is there a separate login for the closed session?
There is a separate login for the closed session.
Okay, just so I guess we should remind everybody, right? Because you don't want to log into the old one, right?
Well, that is correct, but I was thinking, yes, you're right.
Or do we need to log in?
No.
I don't think we need to log back, do we?
Chair Cohen, this is
Yes.
Ms. Taylor. We do need to come back from the recess in the main meeting and then move to the closed session, and then we'll move back to the main meeting.
Yes, thank you.
That's what I was asking. I wasn't sure if we needed to. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Stowers?
Thank you. I'm not sure if you were doing the closed session in 10 minutes at my request, or if you were just taking a break in general.
We're taking a break. I wanted to take one at 2:30, and we weren't able to do so. So
okay.
Just a natural place.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we'll reconvene at 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
right. Ms. Taylor, can we call the meeting back into order, please?
Certainly. The meeting's reconvening at 3:03.
Thank
Our
you.
next item is O, closed session. Discussion and action on personnel matters according to Government Code Section 11126A1. The board members will now go into closed session to discuss personnel matters. Members, please leave this meeting and enter the closed session. Thank you.
Members, just as a reminder, just click on the closed session only, but please do exit this. I'm going to wait and to make sure that all members have logged out of this session. We'll move over to the closed session.
Thank you.
I'd like to come out of closed session, come into public session. And at this time, I'd just like, Ms. Taylor, go ahead.
The board members met in closed session and discussed personnel matters, and they have an announcement. Chair Cohen.
Thank you. We do have an announcement. We'd like to announce that Executive Director Brenda Fleming has announced her retirement. Her retirement will begin on June 30th, 2022, and which offers enough time for us to make a smooth transition. And I just wanted to publicly go on the record and thank her for her lifelong service to the state of California. You will be missed, and now we have a lot of work ahead of us on top of the other work that we've been doing. Thank you for your service. So at this time, Ms. Taylor, could you call the next item? I believe the next item is a recess.
Yes, the next item is a recess until tomorrow, January 26th at 10 a.m.
That's correct. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in recess. See you tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, members. It's been an honor. I appreciate the support and an extension of my gratitude to all of the staff. It's been a great pleasure. I look forward to working with you during this transition to continue to focus on the success of this agency. So it's been my great pleasure serving the state of California and serving the Board of Equalization and this board in this capacity. So very much appreciate your confidence and your support. Thank you, members.
Of course. Senator Gaines?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just cannot not comment. I just have to thank Brenda for her tremendous leadership for the BOE and through difficult times when we were really transitioning into a different kind of newly created Board of Equalization. And so thank you for the sacrifice that you've made. I know that these have been troubling months for you, for your husband, and for your dad. So we'll try to get this figured out and hopefully get you back to your family as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your kind words.
Yes, Madam Chair, if it's okay, I would
please do. Yes.
Just say also give my thanks and appreciation to our Executive Director, Brenda Fleming, especially in my 2 years as the chair. I think you were very instrumental and helpful. One, to just help us learn this whole process and what our role was as the new BOE 102. And I was really looking forward for you to work with us to take this to the next level. And now that you're departing, we're going to definitely call on you. I know I will, to make sure that we're heading in the right direction, and any guidance and assistance you may offer. Now that you're in retirement mode, I guess you can come back as a volunteer, if at all possible. But I really just wanted to thank you publicly, and I really appreciated all the time and effort that you put in, because I know as an executive director, having been one myself, you know, those jobs are 24/7. And I know it took you a lot out of your family, and hopefully your family's listening. And wanted to also thank your husband and your dad for sharing, or actually for giving us some of the time and sacrificing their time with you so you could be with us, and really appreciated it. Thank you. Wish you nothing but the best, though.
Thank you for your kind words.
Mr. Vice Chair Schaefer, and then Ms. Stowers.
You're very young to retire. I mean, look at me and look at May Lee, who's 101. If you have a retirement lunch, May Lee and I will show up to see if we can learn something.
Thank you, Vice Chair Schaefer.
You've made me a much better member, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your kind words.
Ms. Stowers.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Fleming, well, we got 5 months and 5 days.
But who's counting?
Thank you for your service. It's been great. It's been great working with you and strategizing with BOE 1.0 and BOE 2.0, especially when we were at 450 N Street and making plans for how the organization was going to be set up. Over the past 4 years, you've done an excellent job as executive director, managing for the first time, 4 new members you had to onboard under challenging times. So excellent job. Yes, thank you to your family, your father, your husband, your daughter, and your son for allowing us to call you and text you at all hours of the night. 5 months and 5 days. Countdown.
Thank you, Deputy Controller Stowers. Members, again, I appreciate your support, your kind words. Again, thank you all for appointing me to this position and giving me the opportunity to serve this agency, you as our constitutional officers in this great state of California. And so on behalf of my family, thank you very much. And I look forward to a successful transition.
Thank you. And with that, this meeting is in recess.
Thank you, members.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, staff.